Let's be real, if you guys don't know about the MCU or the reach of the Marvel Universe, you guys might be living under a rock. Marvel is a company worth $54 billion and has over 7,000 characters, and they're really good at picking characters to be their poster children. Characters like Spider-Man, Iron Man, Wolverine, Captain America, and almost every single Avenger. Their character placement and ability to make characters that are usually pretty obscure or even boring, and the characters that are beloved by fans, and translating source material into screenplay is some of Marvel's biggest skills. The MCU is the reason for every single live-action cinematic universe, starting all the way back with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. till right now with Echo. The MCU's catalog has so many characters, and when you go through it, there's 2 characters that had a TV show, and they got canceled before they could even get into the real lore of the characters. Those 2 characters are Cloak and Daggers for the ones who haven't caught on yet or didn't even look at the thumbnail when they watched the video. Marvel has been doing these characters wrong for quite some time now, and today I want to take a little time to break down these characters by going into their comic origins and their short-lived TV show, and why they're so important to the MCU and how they can fit into the bigger picture. My name is Pierre, and today we're going to dissect Cloak and Dagger, Marvel's most neglected superheroes. Relax, I know it's been 3 months since my last upload. I promise it won't happen again.
I only cheat on my bitch in the morning, cause I'm loyal at the end of the day. I'm only trying to talk about a blue face, don't gotta play, you guys.
For those of you who don't know who Cloak and Dagger are, meet Tandy Bowen and Tyrone Johnson. These are 2 completely opposites from the way they were raised to their powers. First, we're gonna start with Tyrone Johnson, aka Cloak. Tyrone's a poor black boy from South Boston who struggles with a chronic stuttering issue, and he also plays basketball. Tyrone was 17 years old when his life took a turn for the absolute worst. Him and his brother went to a local store at the same exact time with that store getting robbed. The robbers ended up killing the clerk and running out. Tyrone's older brother Billy grabs him and runs out of the store in fear that the cops will try to pin the crime on them. But I'm not gonna lie to you, as black boys run from a crime, bro, you look as suspicious as you could possibly look. They ended up getting chased by the police, and they held his brother Billy at gunpoint. Tyrone tried to plead his brother's innocence, but his stuttering problem stopped him from getting all of his words out, and the cops shot him dead right there. I think that's a little overboard, but hey, this situation pushed Tyrone to a point where he felt he couldn't stay where he was anymore because of the grief he felt. So he ran to New York. So when he got to New York, his first thing that he was gonna do was rob his white girl who seemed like she had everything. I'll come back to that in a second. As for Tandy Bowen, she was a rich white girl from the suburbs of Ohio, in a neighborhood where all the richest people in Ohio lived. Tandy was a ballerina and she loved ballet. Her home life was terrible though. She lived with her self-centered model mom and her stepdad. Her biological father left for a spiritual rebirth, aka that man was having an affair somewhere out there. This broke Tandy to her core and she never admitted it. She always felt unloved and not seen in her own home. This caused her to seek validation from an older teenager named Rob. He ended up leaving for college a little after they met, so at this point she just felt like everybody she loved would eventually leave her, and she took upon herself to leave to New York. As she got to New York, she got robbed fresh off the train. And I know what you're thinking, damn Tyrone, you already robbed her? But surprisingly, somebody else on the train had the same exact idea, and he beat Tyrone to the punch, and he took her bag. Luckily for her knight in shining armor, Tyrone tackled the guy and was able to take her purse back and give it to her. They ended up going out to dinner that night to learn about each other. Tandy and Tyrone ended up getting offered shelter by some weird chemist on some black phone shit, and he ended up being a terrible human being. Wow, who would have thought, man? He would go on to test drugs and that would be the source of their powers. Fun fact, Mr. Negative is one of the people who dealt the drug Cloak and Dagger were dosed with. Also, another fun fact, Mr. Negative also got his powers from these same drugs. I digress, back to our story. These drugs ended up giving them both powers, and Tyrone got dark-based powers from a source called the Dark Force, and they allowed him to manipulate darkness and control it through the Dark Force, teleport, and when he makes contact with somebody, he can see their biggest fear. As for his counterpart, Tandy, she can make light daggers, and she can also heal people and take drugs out of their system. She can shoot lights as a projectile, and she can also use light as a flashbang. Now that we know who Cloak and Dagger are, we need to understand why these characters are so important and where they've been. Cloak and Dagger have been on a plethora of different teams. Matter of fact, they've been on more teams than Kevin Durant, and I'm being so dead ass. They've been on the Secret Avengers, the X-Men, the Runaways, and the Dark X-Men. Team hopping like crazy, bro. But in all seriousness, these 2 characters need each other and they work best as a duo, because they're more than just 2 superheroes. Cloak and Dagger aren't really your traditional superheroes. They're a lot like an early Daredevil or Jessica Jones. These characters have powers, but instead of going after supervillains, which they do from time to time, relax, they're very street level, and they work on things like sex trafficking, drug rings, and gang wars. These are all things that are very important and don't get talked about in comic book media very often. Marvel is known for some of their nitty-gritty characters and for giving them life in other forms of media. That 2015 and 2018 Defenders era of Marvel was a lot darker than people want to give it credit for. And 2 characters who would have fit perfectly in that era was Cloak and Dagger. Speaking of TV shows, did you guys know Cloak and Dagger TV show actually already exists? And for those of you who don't know, I don't blame you. The show wasn't marketed well at all, and it debuted after all the Netflix MCU TV shows already aired. And it aired on Freeform, which used to be ABC Family. It feels like this show was dead on arrival, and that's the worst part about it. The TV show plot-wise is fantastic. It completely changes the origins of these characters. The TV show starts off following 8-year-old Tandy and Tyrone. Tyrone is still that same poor black boy, but instead, in the TV show, his brother Billy gets a radio stolen from his car. And Tyrone wants to show his brother he's not scared of anything. So he goes and he steals the radio back from the other guys. Unlucky for them, they were getting trailed by cops, and they ended up getting run into a pier, where Billy hit Tyrone behind some shipping containers and went out to the cops with his hands up to plead his case and tell them that the radio was stolen from him. But as he was pleading his case, a rock-solid golf platform blew up and caught the cop off guard and proceeded to let a clip dump into Billy's body. And it killed him, and he fell into the water. Tyrone proceeded to jump into the water and try to save his brother, and the radiation from the particle accelerator? My bad, wrong superhero TV show. The radiation from the golf platform hit him and it activated his mutant gene. As for Tandy in the show, she's still a ballerina and her dad is a rock-solid scientist. But he's still distant in the show, but at least he's in her life. And he's often absent from things. But one day he went to pick her up from a ballet performance and he got a call as they were driving home it was from Roxanne, about how the platform was unstable, but they weren't gonna turn it off. He was on the phone swerving in and out of lanes, crashing out, telling him to turn it off. But by that point, it was too late. And boom, the platform blows up and he ends up taking his eyes off the road and gets T-boned by a tractor trailer. Her dad died on the spot, but the car ended up spiraling into the water and she gets hit with the radiation and it activates her metagene. Then there's an 8-year time skip and we get to see into the future, and instead of them being runaways, we see in 8 years that went by, Tyrone and his family rose in economic status while Tandy and her mother went down. Tyrone was a star of his basketball team and Tandy was drugging and robbing rich white dudes. They have completely changed dynamics as characters, which I thought was pretty cool. Tyrone's stutter swapped out for a serious anger issue, and Tandy just feels like she hates everybody, but that's just me though. The show's plot is phenomenal, and it really does feel like one of those MCU shows from the Defenders era, and I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm pretty sure they're connected. But let me get the negatives out of the way first. The pacing on the show is terrible. It zooms through so much stuff that should definitely have more time attached to it, and it kind of kills some of the anticipation of some of the moments in the show. And I also think I could have edited a couple episodes of the show, because oh my god, it is terrible. Every Tyrone teleport sequence, that shit is garbage.
Hey, Sway Lee, hear me and hear me good, nigga. I'm here to double down. That shit is a 2-pack of ass. The fuck are you talking about? That shit stinks.
Now for the positives of the show. The castings. I have no idea who at Marvel helped to pick Aubrey Joseph and Olivia Holt, but these are some of the greatest superhero castings I've seen in a little bit. When, please, 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 they do come back and reprise the roles, everybody will be able to see how good of actors they are. Another positive from this show is just the themes it covers. This show, again, just feels like a Defenders era show, man. There's no overpowered big bad supervillain. There's just a corrupt cop and a sort of zombie apocalypse. Season 2 is when we get serious though. Season 2, we gotta look at Despair, and it's a whole cat and mouse game where they try to stop a sex trafficking ring and drug lords. And when I tell you this shit gets deep, dog, this shit gets deep. This show was gone before it had a chance to live, but that is how it seems to go for these two characters. With the renewal of Daredevil, I hope this leaves the door open for the revival of Cloak and Dagger, because I feel like they really deserve it. And in the climate we're in right now, their story would be very strong and impactful. We need to keep these same topics and keep the stuff that the original show talked about. Let them cross over with the main MCU also, please. And that's the end of this week's Yap session. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Talking Marvel has been so fun. I've been so locked in with the comics. And I'm loving the stories I'm reading. I want to give a shout out to my boy Miles, so let me use his Marvel Unlimited account to get all the info I needed for this video. Also want to thank you guys for the love on my last video. That's the best performing video on this channel, and we smashed the go ahead set for the summer, so you know I have to up it now. With that being said, if you guys enjoyed this video, hit that like button. If you like me, hit that subscribe button and join the Mafia. We're trying to get to 1,000 subs before the end of September, and yes, I need your help to do it. Yes, you. My name is Pierre, and I will see you guys next week. Hopefully, no more 3-month breaks. Deuces.
Niggas be talking crazy for the socials. Let's see where all that isn't gonna get you. And you be thinking which is dick easy. Y'all had the baddest bitches come and text you. As soon as you get it Addy, they gon' bend through, hop at the car and then they gonna wet you. And if you try to rob it, ain't gonna go the way you think. So then she